Hello. So in this video, I'll show you how can you create a page which you call a view, which then that view will be passed to the selected template of the page. Basically, this tutorial is to show how you can have multiple pages which calls one view or multiple views, where that views are then printed in the template. This is very useful. Why? Because you don't need to have repeated code in the page level. So let's say that the pages calls the metadata, so they initialize some variables, and then that metadata will be passed to the view, which will print that specific metadata, and then that code, that HTML, that generated HTML that the view created based on that metadata will be then printed inside of a template in a specific position. So let me show you how to do that because it's easier to show you. So first thing is to log in now framework, choose the advanced workspace, the selected projects, and currently I can see that I have one page and 3 templates, which come by default when I create a project. So the first thing to do is to detect what is the template that this page is calling. So for now we are using this index page, which will be the same thing that we could create a new one. We just use what we have because it will be simpler. So when I click in the indexed, I can see in the top bar of the editor of that page, I can see that I'm calling an internal template and I'm calling a dash dash default dash dash. Every time that you see this value dash dash default dash dash in the template input, it means that the page is using the default template of the project. So where is this defined? So if you go to the project global variables, you can see that in this variable project default template I have a template defined here. So this template has the value default, which corresponds to this page, to this template here. Okay, so first thing that we will do is create some metadata in the pages, then creates the view that will use that metadata to show it with HTML, and then show that HTML inside of a template. So first thing, let's see what this page has currently. So basically it's just calling this template, which is a very default thing, a very basic thing, which just has one sentence. And now we want to click. So now we want to click in the index page, choose the empty canvas, so we can go to the local, and in here let's create some metadata by creating 2 different variables. So I could do this in a more complicated way, but for the sake of this tutorial, what we want to teach you is the relationships between pages, templates and views. Oh, and by the way, I don't see any views here, so I just need to click here in this button, show advanced items, so we can show the views. Currently I don't have any view. Okay, so going back to the code editor of my page, the indexed page, I am already in my local tab. So what I need to do is I need to drop the define local variable task here, and I'll create a variable called title, a simple variable name, which will have the variable this is title that you can change, whatever. I'll just save it, then I will drag and drop other task, again define local variable, which in here I'll create another variable called summary, where in here I'll just put this is a summary with a big text, whatever, like you can do whatever, basically you can write whatever you want. Okay, let's save it, let's link these two tasks. I could give some name here, let's put here var title, a typo, okay, in here this is the var summary, okay, and basically what I did here was to creating these two metadatas. Okay, let's save it. Okay, so it's the system already saved this by default. So now what we want to do is we want to create a view, so then we can show these two variables that we created in the page level. However, we need to relate this page with the new view that we will create. So we do this through local here too, in the index page level. So in this, let's add another task called set presentation view. So we just scroll down and the task is here, set presentation view. We just drag and drop it and we just link it and we just call it here the name of the view that we will create after. Let's call it view 1 or view of index page, whatever the name that you want to give, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so we can put here, let's put here set view. Okay, so basically what we are doing here, creating two variables and relate and calling the view, let me see what is the name, view of index page. I'll just save it so it's easier than to create the other view. Okay, so I will save it. There is nothing to save, the system already saved this by default, and now I will create the corresponding view. I'll just paste the name that I just copied before, view of index page. Okay, so now I am inside of the editor of my view. So what I want to do now is to print the variables that I created in the page in the view side. So in order to do that, what I will do is I need to define a local variable that will contain that HTML, and then I'll pass this variable to the corresponding template. So basically I'll call this variable, I'll just give the name, let's put my content, and the value here I should paste here the HTML showing the variables that were created in the page site. So in order to do that, I could type some HTML if I know how to do it. So I'll just show you an example where I will print the variable that I created, title, and then another div to show the summary. And I will save it. This is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, if I don't know HTML, is to find a task here called print inline HTML, and in this task, this is just a task that we'll use temporary, we'll delete it after. This is just to create some HTML through what you see, what you get editor, copy the HTML and then paste it in the define local variable task that we created before. So we open the print inline HTML, that's what we see, the properties of this task. Click in this visual tab here, and automatically it will show me here the same editor that I have in the pages, in the views, in the templates, in the design editor tab. So if I click here, it's exactly the same type of editor. So what I'm gonna do is I'll just find like some dummy widget here. I'll just drop it so it can give me some beautiful HTML, whatever it is. So I could do a bunch of stuffs here, which I could just make it bold, change the colors, make it centralized, whatever. Like this is what you see, what you get everything. So what I want to do is I want to print here the title variable, and I want to print here the summary value. Now you need to know that in PHP, to print a variable inside of a text, which is inside of a variable, you do it putting the variable inside of brackets, and a variable is identified by the dollar symbol. So that's what we did here. So we have the brackets and then we have the dollar symbol first, and then the name of the variable. The same thing here. Okay, so this is something that you need to know. So, but basically this is very basic PHP knowledge. This is low code. It's just a simple of code. Okay, so the next step after you create here your beautified HTML code, what we'll do is you come here to the source, you click it, you click OK, and you just do Ctrl A, Ctrl C. Basically, you just copy this code. After that, you can just come to the task and delete it. Or you can just close this and then delete it. Okay, the task deleted and you copy the HTML. So now you can go back to the define local variable. In this define local variable, in the text here, you just select all, Ctrl A, and now you do Ctrl V, which basically will paste the HTML that you copied before. You save it, very important, and by default you already have a view which has a variable called my content, which we did here, which has a value, which is a bunch of HTML, where inside of that HTML you are printing the title variable and the summary variable that you set in the page level. Okay, so basically let me just show you this in code very fast. So basically this is the code that was generated when I create that task, that define local variable. So basically we are defining the local variable my content, which has this value here, which is the HTML, which has inside these two variables, the variable title and the variable summary. That's it. That's the only thing that we did until now. So now the next step is to go to the template site, and in the template we need to print that variable, which is the my content. Let me show you what is the current result of the previous page, which is exactly the same that was before. So it's not showing anything that we are doing now yet, because we didn't print yet the variable my content in the template. So now we need to print it, the variable my content, in some position here. So let's just find the PHP widget and we just put it here, and in here I could do this through low code. I'll simply do it here, which is faster. In the previous tutorials I show you how to do this through low code. Now I'm just doing this faster so I can show you how to achieve what we want in this tutorial. So you just save, and when you do the preview, you can see that now I have the template, which is calling the view that we create. This is what the variable title and this is the variable summary. So basically, if I go back to my indexed page, if I change the values that I have, the title and the summary, I can do it through here. Something. This is some title that I can change. Play. Something like this. I save it and automatically it will show here. Or I could do it through local. I come here to my correspondent variable and I change the values that I want. I save it and I refresh it. Okay, and that's it. Basically what we did was we create we use a page that already exists, but basically it's the same thing. Then create a page, inside of that page creating a bunch of metadata, or calling a bunch of metadata. In this case what we did was we create two static variables with some dummy values, and then call a view, create a view which will show in a beautiful way that metadata, that two variables that we created in the page site, and then show that view in a specific template. If I change the template, the view is still the same, but it can show that HTML in a different way. This is very useful. Why? Because if I have a page that calls, let's say, that connects with the database and calls a list of users, and the view, it will get that metadata, the list of users, it will print in generic HTML, and then it will show that generic HTML in the template. This is very useful because then if I change the template can change automatically the way that the user will view the list of users. Some template, it can show the list of users with a background in red, some other template can show in a background in yellow. It depends, but the question for the sake of this tutorial, the important thing is that you don't need, if you have multiple pages, you don't need to repeat codes. Basically, that multiple pages can just call the correspondent metadata, and I can use the same view. The same view that can be used for the list of users, the same way that can be used for a list of clients. Maybe some page calls a list of users, some other page calls the list of clients, and exactly the same view, so I don't need to repeat code in the page level, and it could be the same template or not. So this is a way where you can play between the relationships between pages, views and templates. So this is just an example. Thank you very much.